This is Support is Sexy, episode 352, with Cynthia Besteman, founder and CEO of Violets Are Blue Skincare. Welcome to Support is Sexy. I'm your host, Elaine Fluker, entrepreneur, author, and founder of Chic Rebellion Media. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I interview inspiring women entrepreneurs who share their wins and their lessons to help you take your business and your life to the next level and create something sexy. Here we go. Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode of Support is Sexy. I'm happy to have you here. It just would not be the same without you. And if you're listening to this in real time, happy Monday. I'm thrilled to have you with us today. And I am thrilled to welcome our guest, Cynthia Besteman. As you heard in the intro, Cynthia is the founder and CEO of a line called Violets Are Blue Skincare. And what I love about Violets Are Blue, other than the fact that it's an all-natural skincare line, is that it was really birthed out of Cynthia's experience after being diagnosed with breast cancer years ago, and her ambition and her journey really to find a solution to create products that support women who are going through cancer treatment. So you will hear about that journey and the evolution of Cynthia herself and the evolution of the Violets Are Blue line over the last few years, how it's grown to include other products, how it's grown to be in stores around the world, and what she's really creating out of this passion for being of service to women overall, and especially being conscious of and of service to women who are going through cancer treatment. So what you'll hear from Cynthia on this episode is not only the steps she took to create her all-natural beauty line, how she got it into stores and that whole process, but you'll also hear important things like paying attention to the signs, not being afraid to take imperfect action. We talk about learning to live the question, the importance of telling people what you're up to. I always say you got to let people know what you're up to, right? Do something that scares you every day, which is something that Cynthia says she does. Why the word quote unquote no may be good for you. As we always say, no is just a part of the process. So Cynthia talks about how a no might be just what you need at the time, and the value of daring yourself to fail. So I know you're going to love this episode. Make sure that you listen out to the end, because Cynthia was kind enough to offer us a Support is Sexy discount code so you can get 20% off the Violets Are Blue skincare line when you order from their website, violetsareblue.com. So again, listen out to the end for that. I hope you find this episode as inspirational as I did. So without further ado, Cynthia Besteman. So Cynthia, thank you so much for joining us for an episode of Support is Sexy. I'm happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm extremely excited to be here.
Absolutely. So our first question, when did you first fall in love with entrepreneurship?
You know what's funny? I think I don't consider myself an entrepreneur, but when I look back on what I've done, I definitely am one. And I think it's just always been in my nature. I think I was born with it. It's not that I have issues working for other people, but I think I like to work outside the box and do things a little bit differently. My mother always said, whatever path there is, you always choose the hardest one. And I think there's something to be said for that. And I think it's just my nature from when I was little.
What do you think it was about you that, as your mom said, made you choose the harder path? Was it the challenge that you appreciated or trying to figure it out? Maybe you didn't know when you were younger, but looking back, what do you think it was now that drew you to that path?
I think it was my propensity for procrastination. Having to figure out quick ways at the last minute about how to get something done. I'm not good being told what to do from others. And I think it was just, I just think it was having to figure out things, how to figure out shortcuts and getting things done faster, problem solving I love. And I think that's sort of where it stemmed from. If that makes sense.
Yes, it does make sense. And I was going to say, it's funny because, we all, of course, talk about procrastination and how to get past it and not do it. But some people thrive in those last minute situations, depending on what the circumstance is, when they have a very concrete deadline and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm definitely one of those type of people. I have prone to procrastinate and prone for dramatics. So the two of them,
Oh, goodness.
I think, is what makes me an entrepreneur.
Right. Now, tell us your background and where you grew up.
I was born in Seattle, Washington, and spent my childhood between there and for a short time lived in Mountain Lakes, New Jersey, which is a small town about 40 minutes outside of New York. And then after I graduated from University of Oregon, I moved out to New York for acting, and I attended Circle in the Square Broadway training program. It's a 2-year conservatory. And I had fully expected to go back home after that. I loved Seattle. I'd been working in theater there. And then I started working with an amazing theater group called Willow Cabin Theater Company, which no longer exists in New York. But we were a small company born out of Circle in the Square. And we did off-Broadway, and we did a Broadway show that got nominated for a Tony. And I just, that was sort of my first entrepreneurial job, was an actor in New York City, and had a great time doing that. But there is no money in it, and couldn't see my family, couldn't take time off. And at that point, I had gotten married to a man that I met in Moscow, Russia, where I was working at the Molly Theater. I couldn't live there full time, so convinced him to move here. He was struggling because he gave up everything there in Russia to start a new life here. So it was interesting to see firsthand an immigrant's struggles when they get here. And so I said, I'll start, doing a quote unquote 9-to-5 job to make some money for us, and you go back to school. And I got into real estate because it was always something I had envisioned myself being a fixer-upper, which never came to fruition. But so I got into real estate, and I started making a lot of money. And that was fantastic. But then I found I was working even more hours than I was in theater. I was working 24/7. We did a lot of work with internationals. So I was getting phone calls at 2 a.m, working through weekends. And I found myself right back where I was in terms of not being able to travel or see my family. Mm-hmm. I'd gotten divorced. I was in a new relationship. He was my business partner, so we couldn't travel together because someone always had to be here. And I remember thinking to myself at one point, something has got to change. And 6 months later, out of the blue, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And that completely rocked my world, mostly because I had no family history. I exercised. I had been a vegetarian for 25 years, or I ate fish, but, no red meat, no pork. I rarely drink. I don't smoke. And that sort of started me on a path of, realizing that it doesn't matter what you put in your body if what you put on your body is toxic. I started with changing our home. I was, getting rid of all of our pots and pans, our shower curtains, our laundry detergent, our laundry soap, everything, our sheets. And then a few months after that, I was at a pharmacist, and he was giving an ointment to the woman in front of me to give to her toddler. He said, "Oh, you just rub it on her forearm. It'll get absorbed into the bloodstream." I thought, wow, that's really interesting. And I came home and looked at all of my beauty products, Googled the ingredients because I couldn't pronounce them, and I was horrified. And this is where fate plays a really interesting part, because then I started Googling how do you make your own organic skincare. And the next night, a class was starting 10 blocks from my house in the city. And I signed up for it. I started taking it. I fell in love with it. And at the time, I was in treatment radiation, and you go the same day every day for 6 weeks. So I would see the same women. And I started telling them about all the things I was making, and I'd be like, "Oh my God, I made this amazing body butter. You have to get some shea butter and some lavender and mix in some argan oil." And they'd look at me and they're like, "Cynthia, I have a job. I just had 6 months of chemo. I have 3 children at home. I don't have the energy to make my own body balm, or I don't have the time to sit in Duane Reade and read the backs of labels." And that's where I went, there's an idea. And I started formulating products specifically for women in treatment for breast cancer. And that's sort of what got the ball rolling for my current job, which is founder of Violets Are Blue Skincare. And it's great because Violets Are Blue sort of marries business aspect, which I loved in real estate, with the arts that I was really missing from my theater days. The people that I'm meeting now, are so amazingly artistic, and I'm learning so much from them, and I'm creating something beautiful, and I'm learning every day. And so it's sort of married the two jobs that I had before to this one perfect job that I just, every day I can't believe I'm lucky enough to do. So it's a very long-winded answer.
No, it's great. You gave us the 30,000 foot view of the story. That's fantastic. I love it. Everybody's caught up now to where you are now, which is great.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you, going back a little bit during the time when you were a realtor for about 15 years, right? It's not like it was a passing thing. You did it for some time. Were you at that time, before you were diagnosed, were you at that time thinking about entrepreneurship at all, or were you kind of...
Not at all.
Not at all.
I just knew that, it was really funny because I was torn, because I was able to have this wonderful lifestyle because, we were really making money, and we were, as a partnership, one of the top agents in our firm. And, and so I could get massages and acupuncture and, get my hair done all the time. And it was wonderful. But I was exhausted, I was stressed out, and I was working all the time. And I just had this constant pit in my stomach. And in a weird way, I sort of look at, not that I would wish cancer on anybody, and it's a horrible, horrible thing to go through. But in my case, and many other people who I've met, it's a slap in the face to figure out what you really want to do in life. And so as soon as I was diagnosed, I knew that. I knew it was my body saying, listen, if your mind isn't going to figure this out and do something different, my body's going to take over and shut you down and really make you pay attention. And so I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew I needed to do something different. And my husband was amazing because he saw how I was struggling, I think, beforehand. And then when I got sick, he said, you take this time, you focus on what you want to do, what's going to get you through this, how you want to live your life after this. I'm going to take over the business. You don't worry about that at all. So I really got to take the time and sit and think what I wanted to do or what I didn't want to do, more importantly. And I did things like, maybe I'll become a Reiki master. So I became a level 1 Reiki practitioner, and I looked into becoming an acupuncturist, and I got into meditation and yin yoga, and nothing was really clicking. I was sort of throwing darts at a dartboard until that very first night in that skincare class, and I just felt something click, like this is the journey you're supposed to go down. And that sort of, in a sense fell into my lap, but I was actively searching, for that Oprah aha moment. I kept saying, this is where I'm supposed to have my aha moment. Where is it? And then in something that I wasn't looking for it is when it fell into my lap.
You're such a powerful example of an interview I did. I mean, this will be when I talked to you, episode 300 something, if not 400. And the interview that I go back to, or something that was said is, I believe it was episode 26 or so. This woman, Patricia Romano, who started.
That's amazing to know what number it was, just offhand, out of all the. Yeah.
Oh, right. Because I mention this all the time, and you're another example of this. One of the things that she talked about was the importance of living the question. So we're always looking for answers or wanting to come up with answers, especially if you're the type of personality, as most of us as entrepreneurs are. We're problem solvers. So we want to find out the answer. But there is times when you have to give yourself the space, which you did and your husband supported you in doing, to live the question. You knew you needed to do something else. What's that?
God, I love that. I love to live the question.
Yes.
It's brilliant.
Yes, and that's why I mention it I can't take credit. It was told, but when she said it, I thought, oh my goodness, this is going to free me in so many ways. I still, sometimes try to figure things out or make it happen is the other words we always use. But just you listening to your story too is another example of I gave myself the space, especially during such a trying time, what I'm sure was a trying time, to live the question and figure it out and know that it's out there.
I am literally writing this down right now. Right. Because you don't know, you tell yourself it's okay. We do feel like we have to figure things out so quick, especially in this day and age, especially living in some place like New York. If you don't, if you take a moment to stop in the street, you'll get run down. So there's this there's this feeling that you need to know. And especially as older women, feel like we don't have the luxury to sit and figure out what we want to do or who we should be or, are we okay in our own skin right now? be able to sit there and say that to yourself, I'm going to say that to myself every moment, every morning when I wake up. I think that is so empowering and so important. So thank you for that. That's amazing.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm glad that moved you the way it moved me. And thank you to Patricia. I'll have to go back and let her know. Remember that episode? Yeah, remember that episode 26 or so, about 300 episodes ago? No, but you are an example, even without knowing the language that we just talked about, an example of that, of giving yourself the space to do that. And then what was it like then, that moment when you did have the aha, when you're around these women getting treatment and they're saying to you, I don't have time to do that. What was that moment when you thought, oh, I could do this for these women and for myself?
I wish I could say it was like a lightning bolt, but it was a little tiny seed that I'm still trying to figure out where I'm going with it. It's sort of like you don't know what you don't know until you realize you don't know it. And it was like, oh, I want to do this. And then, and that's where I feel like if you're on to something, the world will conspire to help you. Yeah. Because, I started just making things on my own for the women in my radiation group. And we were using, friends and family as people to test them on. And then 2 months after my treatment ended, I was at my oncologist and I was saying, oh, I'm making these great products and I want to figure out a way to give them to women who are going through treatment. And I was treated at this place called the Dubin Center in Mount Sinai in New York City. And this place, let me tell you, this place is incredible. It was founded by a doctor who's also a breast cancer survivor, and you walk in, it feels like a spa, and they offer you through your treatment, they do pre-surgery massages, acupuncture, Reiki, all this amazing stuff. And so when I was saying to my oncologist, I'd love to figure out a way to give packages to women, she said, well, why don't you do it here? I'm like, here in New York City in Mount Sinai, like I just started this. And she said, but who better to do this? I think this is a great idea. And to be able to give women your products on their first day of treatment is fantastic. So I said, give me 3 months and I'll come back to you with a set of products. And then I just started madly working, formulating. The woman who taught the class here in New York City, her name's Marla Bosworth with Back Porch Soap, who's become a real mentor to me. I started working with her, and then I started working with a biochemist out of Colorado to test for sustainability and start working on all of this stuff. And then 3 months later, I was back with the administration of the Dubin Center presenting my products. And 2 months after that, I was donating my first package. So it was sort of like this, the horses have left the farm or the barn, is that saying? Or, and it's just the next thing I knew, I had created a company. And it all felt really good. It all felt terrifying. And I think because I didn't know what I didn't know, I was able to do it, because looking back, had I known what it would entail, I don't think I would have had the chutzpah to move forward with it. So I think that's the key. It's like, if something feels right, follow it. Even if it's not perfect, even if you don't know where it's going to lead you. I think also as entrepreneurs, a lot of us feel like, oh, I can't launch my website, it's not perfect. I can't launch that product, it's not perfect. But do it, just put one foot in front of the other, get something out there, tweak it later if you have to. But the main thing is just dropping something that then will mushroom into something even bigger and more beautiful.
Excellent. And I think, too, something, and as you just illustrated to us, that you might not even be able to imagine how it's going to work out. For example, you're mentioning it to the place where you're having treatment, and the woman says, why don't you do it here? You just never know. I always say you can't script it. You just don't know how it's going to work. But you have to tell people what you're up to, which you also did.
Exactly. And you have to face your fear. It was been so easy for me. I do something every day that scares me to death. I say yes to things that my whole body is saying, what are you doing? What are you doing? But that's also the key, is pushing through that fear. I mean, I could have very easily said to my oncologist, oh no, I don't, that's not for me. I was terrified. I walked out of there and felt like I was going to have a heart attack. I was like, what did I just sign myself up for? But in that sense, sign yourself up for things. Tell people you're going to do things. Definitely tell people things that you're working on, because you never know who might go, oh, I have a friend who's looking for somebody to do that. commit yourself to things that you cannot imagine coming through with, because that'll force you to make decisions, that will force you to get things done, that will force you to create things that, for procrastinators like me, might have taken you much longer.
Right.
Had I not had the Dubin Center to show back up at with my products, I would have been, perfecting them for probably 2 years, because they never would have been 100% for me, because that's just the way I am. So, I always say to people, just sign up for something that you have to be present for and have something to present, and that'll get the ball rolling.
Yes. And do you feel like the quote you just said is powerful, I do something every day that scares me to death. Did you have that sort of sense or that sort of challenge for yourself before you went through this whole experience, or was this something since then?
I would play it safe. I mean, listen, and when I was an actress, I would not go out for things because I was terrified of rejection. I was terrified of actually, you book a job and then you think, oh my, you work so hard to get a certain job, and then you book it and then you think, oh my God, I can't do this. How am I going to get through with it? So in that sense, yes, but I would not audition for things because I'd be too scared of the rejection, or I wouldn't take a class, or I wouldn't. That's sort of my nature. I'm the most introverted extrovert. I will do everything I can to try and talk myself out of doing something, but something just sort of pushes me. And I also think getting older, the fear of disappointing people and disappointing yourself lessens a little. So that's been really helpful. The fact that I've launched this, I was 49 when I launched. So there's that. But then I do think, when you're younger, you take more risk without worrying about consequences. So I'm not by nature somebody who will risk take and be okay with it, but I've done more so with this job than anything else.
Mm-hmm. Now, what would you say, or what would you want our listeners to know is different about Violets Are Blue, the line itself?
Violets Are Blue. What's beautiful about it? Here's what's beautiful about what we call it a green beauty world. It's skincare that's made up with, quote unquote, non-toxic ingredients, things that are actually really beneficial for your skin. And what's amazing at this time is there are so many amazing green beauty brands available that it's sort of like, why would you use what we call conventional skincare, green beauty brands that work just as well, if not better, than others? So what's beautiful about my brand within the green beauty world is we're not all about that, that seed that is pressed from a tree that you can only find off an island off of Africa, which is great. But we're about what are the known wonderful seeds, oils, and butter that have shown time and time and again through time to really help women's skin thrive and be its most beautiful at the age that you're at. And I feel like I've done a really good job coming up with formulas that are simple, that are clean, that are nourishing, and that work really well. I've also made sure that everything is packaged in glass, not in plastic. You do all that work and then you put your products in plastic that can leach estrogens, which is something very concerning for women with breast cancer. And we also, the most beautiful thing is that we do donate skincare to women on their first day of chemotherapy at Mount Sinai. And any woman or man who purchases a product from Violets Are Blue, 10% of the purchase price goes to support those donations. So when you're buying something beautiful for yourself, you're also helping a woman going through what is most likely the most horrible thing she's ever gone through in her life. You're helping her get through that with a little bit more dignity and with a little bit more care to her skin than she would be without it.
And that part of the line, is that the beloved part
That's
of
the
line?
beloved line, yeah. And that is specifically formulated for women in treatment. And here's what's interesting. So, when I was testing, I had no idea that I was going to launch a second line. I wanted to do it specifically for women in treatment. And my friends and my family were my testers. And after I launched, people would come over and they'd say, oh, oh, you don't happen to have any of that lotion lying around. I'd love to take some off your hand. Or, oh, I really love that serum. Is it okay for me to use it even though it's made for women in treatment? And then I realized that what's good for the skin of women in treatment, when you're in treatment, your skin ages probably 10 to 15 years faster than you would if you didn't have treatment. Every ounce of moisture is sucked from your body. Your nails crack, your feet crack, your lips crack, your hair gets dry if you're having radiation. And you just feel like you've been stuck in the desert for 3 days without water. So if a product works for women like that, imagine what it can do for women who aren't going through that. Mm-hmm. So that's when I decided to launch the signature line. And we've just added a little bit more essential oils in there, just to really pack a punch, which can, be a little bit irritating to women whose skin is a little compromised. And then with that, I was able to add, body scrubs and face scrubs. We've launched an all-natural, non-aluminum deodorant, which I think is extremely important for women. So that's sort of where that line was born from. And then, people know that they can then help women who are going through treatment by buying the signature line. Another interesting thing is that once women are done with their beloved packages, they quote unquote graduate to the signature line. And then because they love the products, they know that it works, so they want to stick with it. And then also by buying the signature line, they know that they're helping women come behind them who are going through something. So it's a nice full circle event for them.
I love it, Cynthia. It's a beautiful mission, great products, and which I cannot wait to try. I'm actually thinking about women I need to buy these, the packages for, but because so many of us are affected or know people who are affected by.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, and if you have a friend or a loved one who's been diagnosed and you don't quite know what to do for them, flowers doesn't quite cut it.
Right.
We do offer, packages. We ship worldwide. They're really beautiful. You can buy the whole package. You can buy one or two of the items, and it comes with a beautiful note. And it's a really great way to let women know you're thinking of them and you're helping them, fight the beast.
Right. And I'm looking at, that's exactly what I was looking at, the beloved package, the gift package that has several of the products within it. And so for everyone listening, of course, I'll have a link to the website. I know people are going to be curious, but it's violetsoreblueskincare.com. But we'll have a link to everything. And I'll link especially to to both lines, the signature and the beloved line, so people can see both.
Great.
So now tell us a little bit about the process of once you decided, okay, you've said yes to this sort of calling to create these products. You've taken the class with Marla Bosworth. Was that her name?
Bosworth, correct. Yes.
Okay, and I'll get her information from you so we can link to that. But after you've done that, what was your first step in creating the product, getting the packages and all of those things? And how long has it taken for you to get to this point of the beauty that we see on your website now?
Well, I launched in November. It's actually 4 years ago. I launched. I would say the first 2 years were, correcting mistakes that I hastily did to launch. I launched with the beloved line, the 6 products, and it was so much fun. Figuring out the formulas, testing them, researching. Rosehip seed and carrot seed oil, which is probably my most favorite oil of them all, and figuring out, okay, how can I put carrot seed oil in every single one of these products, and learning about castor oil and how I've fallen in love with that. And I really have a love affair with these oils and butters. And just realizing what they can do for you topically, what they can do for you in terms of calming. Like lavender is the most calming essential oil. It really affects your nervous system. So learning about the beauty of essential oils. And, I signed up for classes. I signed up for seminars. And it was so enjoyable to sort of be back in that realm of being a student. And I still, to this day, I still take classes. I'm still learning, and that's one thing I say to people: don't ever assume that you've got it figured out, because there's always something new or coming, something that you haven't learned until the day you die. You need to be learning. So it was a really organic process. I really focused on, when we launched, I really wanted to be in anthropology. that was my favorite store that I shopped at. There's another amazing store called Credo Beauty that launched in San Francisco shortly after I launched, and it carries only green beauty products. And so that was sort of my, in equivalency, an Oscar would be to get into that store. We just launched in there in April.
Oh, of this year?
And yes.
Congratulations.
And we're going to be, thank you. And they're an amazing, the people I've met, and it's funny because I really wanted to get in there 2 years ago, but, looking back, I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready with production. We were doing small runs, out of a facility in Colorado. And the product that really has taken off is our deodorant. And so we had to upscale production, finding, it's like things like every day. It's like, oh, now I have to find a manufacturer. I don't know anything about manufacturers. How do I start that? I have to find out about sample packs. I don't know anything about sample packs. How do I do that? So it's just literally sitting down, taking a breath, and just Googling, how do I make a serum formula? How do I find who, packages sample packs? How do I, find a manufacturer? I think in that sense, nowadays, we're so much luckier than our mother's generation because finding out information on anything is so much easier. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, it's just literally starting with a Google and then figuring it out from there and, just slowly growing. The exciting thing is we're going to be launching online with Nordstrom in January.
Fantastic.
And that's a really, really big deal, being a girl from Seattle. And they're catching on. They're realizing that green beauty is the wave of the future. So they're starting to bring in natural beauty brands. And again, that would be something that I wouldn't have been prepared to do a couple years ago. But now we still are small run, but we're just small run out of a facility in New Jersey. And had this all happened 2 years ago, I wouldn't have been ready for it and I would have failed miserably. So, we're launching a couple new products in 2018 that I've been very impatient with launching, but I realized that I need to take my time with them and make sure that they're right instead of going back and changing formulas. So it's just been every day I'm learning something, 3 times a week. I have a good cry because I'm overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. And my husband walks by and says, "You're living the dream, honey." I said, "Yes, I'm living the dream."
Through your tears. Yeah, this is a dream.
But I don't have a plan B. So it's not easy, as you know, being an entrepreneur. It's not easy doing it on your own without a partner. But you do it. If you love it, you figure out a way to do it.
That's right. And I think something else great that you mentioned. One thing first, are you in anthropology as well, or we're still working on that one?
Yes.
Oh, excellent.
No, we're in anthropology. Yes, we're online. Everything, all of our products are online, and then our deodorant is available in store.
Now, one of the things that you mentioned, too, is that this idea of, going after things, but then it didn't work out, but now that you weren't ready at the time, or what would have been the challenges that might not be a challenge now that you're more aware of. And I think that's important for people to hear. And I always talk about, no is just a part of the process. And it's sort of like, okay, it's no for now, but at least you're in touch with them, figure out what you don't know. Like you said, you don't know what you don't know, and continue to learn and go back if that's something that you really want. It doesn't mean it's the end.
Exactly. And someone had said sort of what you just said, that no means not now. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean no, it just means no, as you just said, no for now. And there's a reason that it may be the best thing in the world for you that you got to know. I say to people, challenge yourself to fail, because we all have this fear of failing, fear of failure. And it's like, so try it, try and fail, put yourself out there to get a no, dare yourself to get a no, dare yourself to get rejected, dare yourself to fall flat on your face, and you'll see that not only do you survive it, but you survive it and thrive because of it. And I think we, sort of going back to what we were talking about earlier, is like, do something that scares you every day. And it's like, do something that you think, I'm going to fail at this. And it's so freeing, and it's so, it makes you realize that half of the things that you worry about are self-imposed, mm-hmm. and nobody else about them. And half of the things that you fail at are not failures when you look at them, down the road, 2020 hindsight. It's like we're so afraid to to quote unquote fail that we don't take the risk to begin with. So when I get in those situations, I dare myself to fail. And 9 times out of 10, I don't, because, it's our mind that really screws with us and tells us we can't do something. But then when we do it and it works out, great.
That's right. And do you feel like, I always say this, but do you feel like also there's learning in action? Like some things, I think, even if someone tells you exactly how to create your line or exactly how to get in store, there's some things you just have to learn by doing, because everyone's experience is different.
You have to, exactly. That is 100% correct. And you need to struggle. If you don't struggle, there's no appreciation. There's no heart and soul in what you're doing if you haven't struggled. And that's whether, you're in real estate and you're fighting to get a listing, or you're fighting to get that role on Broadway, or you're fighting to launch a product. It's all relative. And if you're not sweating it, people will see it. People know, just like if we look at people in society that have skated through, you don't connect with them. You don't understand them. You can't relate to them or what they're putting out because there hasn't been a struggle.
One of the things that I see in your beautiful story is just this idea of not being afraid to reinvent, either if you felt like it was out of a need or out of, as we talked about, creating a space for you to be able to do that. So for women listening, seeing that you have gone from Broadway to real estate to now creating this beautiful line, Violets Are Blue, and its mission, how do you view reinvention and having the courage to do so, especially as a woman who has a career for a certain amount of time and then decides, I'm going to make another shift? What would you say about it now, looking back?
It's so weird because I never intentionally made shifts. Like I never thought, okay, I have this job now. I'm going to do this job for 15 years. It's just, listening to yourself and knowing, and I think also with our generation, we have it lucky that it is not looked down upon to make a switch in a career. Mm-hmm. Whereas in our mother's generation's way, you didn't work, and our fathers took a job and they stayed in their job for 50 years till they retired. And most of them were, miserable. And I think now that society, there's so many ways to help you make changes that you can just do it. Age is not a factor that you shouldn't, I'll be honest, sometimes I think, what am I doing? I'm 53 years old. Why do I think I can do this? This is something for a 20-year-old, but it's not. If I wasn't happy, it's not worth, it wouldn't have been worth staying in a job that I was good at, that I wasn't happy at. So I say, don't think about age. Your age should not stop you from doing something. If there's something that you think you want to do and there's a way that you can try it out without, giving up your life, take a class, and if you're just feeling, and this is sort of the situation that I was in, if you're just sort of feeling lost in the world and you don't know what it is that you want to do, just start trying things, sign up for things, travel a little, sign up for, meetup groups that you may not know if you have a connection with, but just put yourself out there and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to make a change. And don't be afraid that you don't have a plan B. And, it's not, what do you want to look at when you're looking back on your life and you're not, you played it safe or that you took risks?
Right. And I think, too, don't be afraid of, and all of us do this at some points, don't be afraid of what other people are going to think. Because most of the time, I always say people are busy thinking about their own stuff.
Isn't that the funniest thing? And I tell myself that because I suffer from that a lot. What are people going to think if this brand is in this store and my brand isn't? Nobody's paying attention to that. They're paying attention to the good that I'm doing. And as a woman, I think we do that. We so worry about what other people think of us, but we're so busy worrying about ourselves that we're not worrying about other people, and they're worrying about themselves. And I think we as women need to tell each other and remind each other that nobody cares what you're doing. And also, if you share your thoughts and your fears with other women, the next thing you know, if I come into a room and I'm like, oh my God, my products are this, that, and the other, I'm not, the other women are going to do the exact same thing. But if I come into a room and I'm like, God, I just had a production disaster and I don't know if I'm going to make this order that's in. I don't know if I can do this anymore. 9 times out of 10, the other woman in the room will be like, oh my God, that just happened to me yesterday and I'm dealing with this. And then you end up supporting each other. It's about, people your fears and your warts and your problems. And they're so relieved to hear that somebody else is going through something hard or thinking about making a change or unhappy with where they're at, that the next thing you know, they're sharing it as well. And then you think, oh, okay, so I'm not the only one feeling this way. And it's really comforting.
That's right.
I think we need more of that as women.
We do in the space, especially as women who are being creatives or leaders in companies or whatever it is, just having that space to be vulnerable and open and transparent. And like you said, just knowing that you're not alone and the other person might have a solution to the problem or they might not. They might just be able to say how they're handling it. You just, as you said, that connection just does so much for us.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, what does your support network look like? You mentioned that you feel like you're sort of doing this alone, but what's the support network you've built around yourself as you create this business?
Well, first of all, my husband is amazing. First of all, I met women who, when they were in treatment for breast cancer, their husbands left them because they couldn't handle it. But this is where I always get emotional. My husband from day one said, "We are going through breast cancer. We have an appointment. Our treatment ends." And never for 1 second felt like I was alone. And it was a lot for him to handle because the focus is on me. He's taking care of me. He's taking care of the business, and nobody's asking him how he's doing. And I will be forever grateful for that. And I really got to see who he was, when the chips were down. And I'm so lucky, and I had to, maybe go through cancer to figure that out. But, and then what's also interesting is I have two of my closest girlfriends who, before I was diagnosed, you have your close friends and then friends that are, good friends. And it's funny when you get cancer how a couple people fall off the face of the earth that you thought would be there for you. But more importantly, I had a couple girlfriends who are now, they're my family, that when I was waiting for test results and I was, having to wait for days, I would get an email every morning. And it would be something for me to do during the day, like go to the Frick Museum, pick out your favorite painting, your least favorite painting, write us 2 paragraphs on each, why you liked them, why you didn't. So they would give me something to do that would take my mind off the fact that I was waiting for my, pathology reports. And they were there with me every step of the way. And they've become 2 of the closest friends I could ever ask for. And again, you sort of see when the chips are down, who's there for you. And I feel so lucky to have these girlfriends that, we talk about, when we get older, we'll all buy apartments in the same building. And, and one, went through a pretty horrible divorce and the other is dealing with her partner having lung cancer. And to know that we're there for, each of them, we couldn't be getting through what we've gone through without each other. And mind you, they're both entrepreneurs as well. So it's interesting to see the women that I gravitate towards. My family, my mom, she turned 83 yesterday.
Oh, happy birthday, Mom.
She's amazing. She, and I love when people comment on how beautiful my skin is. I say first it's, my mom's genes. If you see her, she looks like she's in her 60s. But I'll tell you, nobody has been a bigger champion for me than her. She's like my top salesperson. She's in a workout group, and all of her friends are now, customers of Violets Are Blue. Anytime something great happens, everybody hears about it. My brother and sister and their families have been so incredibly supportive. My father has been a sort of a business advisor for me. And not once has anybody said, "What are you doing? Like, why do you think you can do this? Or why, this isn't going to work? Who are you? You don't have a biology degree." And, if somebody were to be like that, I think I'm at the point now where, I would choose my business over the friendship. But I'm so lucky in the sense that, I don't have kids. But I have the best friends and family a girl could ask for. And they're all, just before our call here, I called a girlfriend up and I said, I need to be talked off a ledge because of, 3 things that happened today business wise. And then I couldn't find my earphones for this interview. And that put me over.
Right. That was the thing, right? Put you over the edge. I know. It's so funny.
Like this, yeah, it's a little thing that puts you over the edge. I'm like,
exactly.
this, and this, and that. As I was on the phone, I looked down, I'm like, oh, and there are my earphones. But to have people to call to just say, I'm teetering here. I need you to pull me back in. And she knew exactly what to say to me. And 5 minutes later, I was back in business. So friends are really important. The women that I've met in the green beauty industry have been amazing. You would think it would be very competitive, and it's not. It's so supportive. I have there's a couple other brand owners that I can pick up the phone and call if I have a question about launching with the store or manufacturing practices, and they're there for me, and like I am for them. And I'm really, really lucky because 90% of this is having the guts and the finances, and then the rest is having the support behind you. Even more so, support is just as important as guts.
Absolutely. That sounds like a powerful support network and a good mixture of people too, from all different parts of your life.
Yeah. I spread support around so I don't make anyone too exhausted. So I'm really lucky.
Now, with the green beauty industry or the green beauty world, what were the ways that you figured out of how to get connected to people within that space? Just for those listening who might be considering creating some kind of products or just interested, was there a certain organization you joined, or are these just individuals that you met?
It's just researching, going into the green beauty stores, seeing what they're carrying, then Googling the brands, finding out the backstory, following them on social media. Meeting them at green beauty events, like doing, I just did the Well Summit, which is here in New York City 2 weeks ago. They'll be back every year. The Indie Beauty Expo, which is here every year, signing up for those things that put your products out there, but then also is great networking for other green beauty brands. So anything that is sort of, business or show related, you just jump into, and then you just reach out to the people, and then you have such a common interest, and it just is, it just connects you immediately because we all are so passionate. 95% of the people who have started their brands, it's been born out of a personal need, be it an illness or a child's illness or a reaction or sourcing. There's so many green beauty brands that support women in third world countries who are working for them. So everybody has a story, which is also what's great about the green beauty industry. It's just filled with passion and love, and we're all doing things, and there's room for all of us. You look at someone's shelf and it's never one brand. It's, the serum from this brand, a lip balm from that brand, a foundation from this brand. So there's room for all of us in the green beauty world, just as there is for us on the shelves.
That's right. Now, would you say, what would you say, I should say, entrepreneurship has taught you about yourself as a woman? That I am way stronger than I ever imagined I would be, that I can learn more than I ever thought I would learn, and that I have a lot more guts than I ever thought I did. Now, is Violets Are Blue self-funded, or do you have outside investors, friends and family to help support, or how is it? It's 100% self-funded. When I first launched, I did a GoFundMe campaign, raised $1,000, and other than that, it's been completely self-funded. Good for you, Cynthia. That's awesome. I can't wait to support. I was just curious. But there's days where I'm like, I need someone to come in and just drop a wad of cash. And again, I don't think I'm ready for that. I think that would bring a whole host of other issues. So would it be really nice for the moment? Yes, but in the long run, and then you're not really yes, you are an entrepreneur, but then you end up working for somebody if they're giving you big loads of money, and then you lose the vision. So the struggle is real, but it's worth the struggle. It's worth the struggle. Now, what would you say is your grand vision at this point? Of course, it can always evolve, for Violets Are Blue. First and foremost, I would like to get into more hospitals with our donation program. As sales grow, we'll be able to do that. I would love to, work with the sales out of Nordstrom and work with a hospital in the Seattle area. So I would love to see more hospitals coming into the mix. I would love us to see us more global, with a global presence. We're in Canada, Hong Kong. We've just launched in France. I would love to do more within Europe.
And I'd love to see, us in more stores in the US, get the products that are online actually into the stores so that the world can be tuned into green beauty.
Now, how big is your Violets Are Blue team? I know you're, spread around the world and in all of these stores, and of course you're running everything, but do you have a team that you work with day to day, or is it mostly the manufacturers and that kind of thing that are your primary contacts for keeping the business going?
Yeah, it's very fluid. It's mostly the manufacturers. They're out in New Jersey. I just hired a marketing team. They're based in Florida. They're amazing. So you hire, and that's the one thing that I would also say to entrepreneurs, people launching a business, learn quickly what you're not good at and hire someone to do it. Try things, but once you're like, I'm no good at this, like marketing for me, I don't know the ins and outs. So it's worth it for me now to pay somebody to come in and do that so I can focus on other things. So, but it's also, it's not cheap. You definitely get what you pay for, but my vision is to hire this particular company for the last 2 years. And so now I'm at a place where I can do it. So, I've hired a great marketing team. I worked with the people who created my website. So I bring people in as I need them, but I have one person who works part-time, very part-time for me. But other than that, it's me, myself, and I.
Mm-hmm. And your website is beautiful.
Thank you.
If I haven't said that already, I keep going back to it.
Yeah, stay tuned because we're updating it again this month in December, so it will be even better. Just adding some more fun things like Pressed and Stockist and, just a little upgrade.
Oh, good. Hopefully Support is Sexy will be on there. Yay!
Yes, yay!
So in closing, Cynthia, if you think over your life and career and you had the chance to thank only one person whose support was critical to you personally or professionally, who would that be and what would you say?
Oh my God. Okay. You're like Barbara Walters. Now I'm crying.
That question always gets them.
Oh, I know. The other second, 100%. I mean, I have so many people, but I'd have to say my mother. My mom, I'm the youngest of 3 kids. And, my sister is a world-renowned anthropologist. My brother is amazing business. He went to school on a football scholarship. And then I was sort of like the person that I think they were always like, what's going to become of her? It's like, I was the actress, the artistic one. And not once has she said, like, I don't believe in you or believe in what you're doing. And it was like, I want to go to New York and be an actress. And, she's like, well, pay for your rent for the first year. And, I want to drop that and I want to, go to Russia and get married to my, Russian director boyfriend. Okay, let us know when the wedding is. I want to go into real estate in New York City. Great, that's fantastic. I want to start a skincare line. Like not once has she said, I don't think you can do it. And she's somebody that if I'm down, I can call. She herself, after my parents got divorced, she became a stockbroker and became like one of the top brokers in her firm when she was in her late 40s. So she gets it. She's very good with, teaching me not to sweat the small stuff, what's important, what isn't, that I always have a room in her house to move back into if I fail. And she just loves her children fiercely and is so proud of all 3 of us. And, what makes her happy is her family. And I think that's also what's important because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you're doing if you don't have great family and that to put the time into them and enjoy them. And she's been teaching me that every step of the way. And to be a woman in the business world, to watch her thrive in that while, raising 3 kids has been amazing. And she's an amazing woman. And if I can be half the woman that she is, I will be happy with that.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Now tell us how we can support you. Tell everyone again your website and social media. And of course, I'll have links to everything.
Oh, great. Well, our website is violetsarblueskincare.com. And I am happy to work out a coupon code,
yes.
Sexy 2017 for 20% off. So SEXY 2017 coupon code, and that'll give you 20% off all purchases. We're also available anthropology.com, credobeauty.com. Instagram is Violets Are Blue NYC. Facebook, Violets Are Blue. And, just spreading the word. The more products that are bought, the more women that are helped.
Excellent. That's excellent. So Sexy 2017 for 20% off.
Yes.
And the way the products, in case we didn't make it clear earlier, the way you help or be able to donate the products to women who are going through treatment is it 10% of whatever people purchase goes towards that?
Yes. Support donation packages. So each package that is put in the hands of a woman on her first day of chemotherapy is paid for directly by purchases made from either our signature line or our beloved line online.
Excellent. Wonderful. Cynthia, thank you so much. It's so great to chat with you, hear your story. I'm glad we're connected now. I can't wait to buy the products for women that I know. And and one question I forgot to ask you, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. I'm doing great. I am 6 years out. I just stopped taking tamoxifen, which is an anti-estrogen inhibitor that many of us have to take for 5 to 10 years. So I'm off all medication and I feel fantastic. And, if God forbid, if something happens, I've got an amazing medical team waiting for me with open arms. So knock on wood, I'm doing great. Thank you. Yes.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Good. Glad to hear it. Now, before you go, what's a parting piece of advice from you to our listeners about anything?
I would just say, sort of what we've been talking about, dare yourself to fail, take the fear out of it and just dare yourself. And, nobody is going to judge you. You're your own worst enemy in terms of that. And, love yourself enough to, allow yourself to fail if that's what happens. And 90% of the time it won't.
Excellent. Cynthia, thank you so much. Hold on just a moment. All right, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Cynthia. Make sure to go to supportissexypodcast.com and search Cynthia, Cynthia. Her show notes page will pop up with all of the links, the resources, ways to find out more about Violets Are Blue skincare, and a link for you to get that discount on the products and to support women in cancer treatment. Supportissexypodcast.com and just search Cynthia. Now, whether this is your first time listening or your 352nd time, again, I'm so happy to have you here. It wouldn't be the same without you. What I'd love for you to do to help me, to help the show, to help these women that we feature on the Support is Sexy podcast is to make sure that you subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. It takes maybe about 2 minutes, if that long. Leave us a review. Let me know what you think. I always say I'd love a 5-star review, but any feedback is appreciated. So make sure you subscribe, you leave a review, and you tell us what you think. All right, so thank you again for being here. I so appreciate you. And until next time, you know what to do. Go out there and create something sexy, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.